Welcome to A Balancing Act, a podcast devoted to helping families navigate memory loss. I'm Kelly Burtonshaw. When a loved one is diagnosed with memory loss, everyone's lives change. Family members now have to juggle their loved one's increasing need for care while also trying to manage their own lives, families, and careers. It truly becomes a balancing act. I've worked with those affected by memory loss and with their families for more than 20 years. I created this podcast with the goal of helping you and your family face these challenges head on. Together, we'll find the answers because no one should walk this journey alone. Let's get started. Welcome back, everyone. Well, the topic for today's episode came directly from you, our listeners. In fact, I received basically the same question from two different families. Why is my loved one delusional? The answer to that is not as straightforward as it may seem. Here are the examples those families provided as their loved one's delusional behaviors. The first family talked to me about their father. He had just been diagnosed with a memory impairment, but he was insisting that he could make the annual drive across the country to his winter home just as he had always done, alone. The other family told me about their mother, who was constantly calling them and telling them that the neighbors were watching her and stealing her jewelry. Now, one of those examples is delusional thinking, but the other is a form of denial. And sometimes these labels are used interchangeably. But when we are talking about dementia, there are very important differences between the two. And by talking about those differences with you today, I hope to give you tools and responses you can use right now to help your loved one and to help yourself. Denial is defined as a rejection of information that is somehow overwhelming a person's coping abilities. Now, some people refer to it as lying to yourself, but basically denial is a defense mechanism. And it may be that your loved one is showing that denial when they first come to have memory problems or they're diagnosed with a dementia. And just think about it for a minute. To suddenly be told that your occasional cognitive lapses and memory issues mean that you now have dementia can be devastating. There are so many unknowns, so many things to worry about losing. And sometimes a loved one doesn't even want to hear the terms Alzheimer's or dementia. And denial can show up in other forms too. Your loved one will often refuse any help whatsoever. They don't want to talk about mistakes they've made. They don't want to talk about things they've forgotten. And they will refuse to change the way they do things, saying things like, I have been doing this by myself for years. I never had a problem, and it's not a problem now. At these earliest stages, the symptoms of their dementia have not gotten to the point that they're interfering with most of their daily life. And let's go back to that dad insisting that he could make that cross-country solo drive to Florida. This type of insistence is not just a form of denial. It comes from a real place. It comes from your loved one's need to keep defining themselves on their own terms, to see themselves as capable as they ever were. These types of denial are not deliberate. It is your loved one struggling with what is happening to them. And denial is often temporary. Over time, even if you may not hear them say it out loud, people can come to accept what is happening to them. And that is a key difference between denial and delusions. Denial is a temporary, defensive coping mechanism, while delusional thinking is neither temporary nor negotiable. Delusions are a direct result of dementia-related changes to the brain. Unlike denial, delusional thinking is not a rejection of information, but an inability to take in and then process information. Delusions are often defined by medical professionals as strongly held false beliefs. Not just an impression of what is going on, but a completely different reality. Delusions are also often the hallmark of dementia's progression across more areas of the brain. worsening memory problems, slowed information processing, and difficulty problem solving. All of these interfere with your loved one's ability to take in and then put together what is really going on. And remember, the brain does not have an alarm system to tell us when changes are happening. Our brains go with whatever they've got at the moment. And the results are twofold. Your loved one does not remember that they forget things, and they now lack insight regarding the damage being done to their brain and how it is affecting their thinking. Now let's go back to that mother who was constantly telling her family that the neighbors were watching her and stealing her jewelry. What might have happened is that she sometimes forgets where she puts her jewelry. Then she sees people, many of whom she might not know, outside her house each day while they're exercising or they're walking their dogs. And because she can't quite put that information together and problem solve what is really going on, she makes her own reality of the two pieces of information that set off the alarms in her brain: strangers outside my house and missing jewelry. That's right, paranoia is the result of delusional thinking. And as more of the brain is being affected by change, delusions can also come in the form of misidentification. Your loved one may think of you as their sibling or their spouse as a friend. Finally, in the later stages of dementia, another form delusions can take is known as time shifting. This is when your loved one may think that they're still 30 years old and they need to get to work. Or they may think they're a child, still living with their parents. But the truth of the matter is this: your loved one simply can't take in the current reality and then put two and two together. In all cases, their delusional reality is the only reality. So right about now, you might be thinking, okay, Kelly, I got it. But what do we do when we find ourselves dealing with a loved one and their denial, or with their delusional thinking? Let's start with denial. It's important to recognize that denial is extremely common with the onset of things like memory problems or the diagnosis of a dementia. But some family members believe that the best way for their loved one to deal with these things is to face them. But their loved one might be just lost in all that those memory problems or that diagnosis of dementia means. And I don't know about you, but over the course of my life, I have found that it never works when I try to force someone to face a reality and start dealing with it right now. I just get pushback and even resentment. People always process things in their own ways and within their own time frames. So, this is where the expression, put yourself in their shoes, is the best place to start. Think for a minute about what the costs are of what is happening to them. What do they fear the most? And here's just a few things that I have come across over the years: fear of the unknown, judgment from others, loss of control, of independence, of their home, and becoming completely dependent on others. And maybe all of those things. Whatever the answers are, they are legitimate and cannot be excused away. However, if your loved one's denial is causing your loved one's depression, significant agitation, safety concerns, and problematic behaviors, it's time to reach out to your loved one's doctor for recommendations. Now we're going to zero in on delusional thinking related to progressive dementia. It is so important to keep in the front of your mind that your loved one cannot control what is happening to them. When they are experiencing delusional thinking, it is the God's honest truth to them. And of course, it's a natural response for us to want to correct our loved ones. Our reasoning being that if they were only aware of what's really going on, there wouldn't be any problems. But you'll find that it's almost impossible to convince a person with dementia that they are delusional. So instead of trying to get them to think in a different way, try getting them to think in a different direction. See if you can get them to elaborate on what they're thinking. What are they seeing? What's going on? What caused this to happen? And if they're in distress, take it very seriously. If you dismiss it, you are pouring gas on a fire. Let's go back to that mom accusing her neighbors of stealing her jewelry. We often go with what we think is a caring response. Mom, those are just your neighbors. And sometimes, Mom, you forget where you put your jewelry. But I'm going to recommend these instead. Offer a solution. Mom, I think this might be my fault. I think I moved your jewelry box last time when I was helping you straighten up. I'm going to go look for it. Or redirect them to another but related topic. Try something like this. Mom, I'm so sorry. Your jewelry is missing. I know how much you love those things that you got from Grandma. Oh, Mom, do you remember when you bought me my first pair of earrings? They meant so much to me. Either one of these tactics can be a gentle and peaceful way to ease their distress as well as yours. Now let's talk about you. Denial and delusions are so difficult to deal with. There's no getting around that. And I can tell you that at times, they're more upsetting to family members than they are the loved one. One family member told me that she hadn't felt like she was losing her mom until the delusions started. But leading with your loved one's reality, whatever it is at the moment, requires effort, patience, understanding, and planning. And it bears repeating. If your loved one's thinking and their response to it could bring harm to themselves or others, call their doctor as soon as possible. And while you're taking care of them, take care of yourself. Keep building that team. Keep building your resources. Reach out to other family members, friends, and support groups whenever you can. Even reach out on our Facebook page. You don't have to reinvent the wheel here, and certainly not by yourself. And whenever you can, grab professional advice and recommendations. I've included some excellent resources about denial and delusions in today's show notes. And as always, please reach out to me on our Facebook page with any questions or comments. This podcast is for you. You drive all of our content, and I hope that I'll be hearing from you soon. Finally, whenever you're faced with a loved one's denial or their delusions, always hold this close to your heart. No one is perfect at this. No one. You are doing the best you can. You are doing it from a place of love, and that is enough. I'm Kelly Burtonshaw, and it was my pleasure spending time with you today. Keep in touch.
Hi, I'm Peggy Bright, editor and producer of this podcast. If you like this episode, let us know by following A Balancing Act wherever you get your podcasts. Please take a moment to rate and review, and be sure to check us out on our new YouTube channel. Leave any comments or questions for Kelly so that we can continue to provide relevant content. We are here to help, and we hope to hear from you soon. Thanks for listening today.